If I told you that Euphoria, the infamous cursed death game eroge, was not the most repulsive visual novel to ever exist, you might be surprised, because that title belongs to Maggot Baits. This is one of the most sickening things you will ever see. You'll watch characters suffer through some of the most horrific, torturous acts imaginable, whether it's from sadistic humans, otherworldly monsters, or even unspeakable maggot beasts. If there's a hole, it's getting penetrated violently. Maggot Baits is cruel and vile, and 90% of people out there will hate reading through this. And yet, despite it being so utterly despicable, it's unexpectedly remarkable. I've gotta say, underneath the cruelest forms of bodily defilement, I did not expect it to unravel the truest forms of love. Of course, before I even attempt to convince you that Maggot Baits is somehow a beautiful artistic piece, we gotta talk about quite literally the worst part of the visual novel. Insert warning here, yeah. Maggot Baits is unapologetic about the type of work it is. Almost all of the H scenes in Maggot Baits are practically a creative exercise about how extreme they can go with torture. Body modification, target practice, steamroller showcase, Iron Maiden impalement, forced birthing, and let's not forget about all the tentacles and literal maggot worms. I don't think skullfucking was on my bingo sheet for the cursed VNDP sexual tags, but I didn't even think eroticized amputation was even a thing. Really, Maggot Baits just makes non-consensual gangbangs look like child play fighting. The very first brutal scene depicts a girl being strapped to a wheel while rich men are playing a fun game of roulette where the pockets are her body parts, which are then eventually selected to be her left ear, right leg, left breast, and right eye to be forcibly removed. This was merely the baseline. Restraint was not considered, and it wants to tell you every excruciating graphic detail about it. This devolves into Maggot Baits having this unhealthy obsession for unnecessarily long and repetitive torture scenes. Please game, I don't know what erotic Kama Sutra books you've been religiously reading, but there's only so many positions you can show after the 10th tentacle scene. The route to the bad ending itself, aptly named Welcome to the Monkey House, has you go through like 7 forced futanari scenes for the next few hours. It really makes me empathize with the people skipping through all of those H scenes, despite diving through the depths of the internet for those uncensored patches. Let me know if this is you. I commend your tenacity. And while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel, because I can use some extra mental support if I'm gonna sit through these and yamete kudasai to find those rare narratively purposeful sex scenes. There are some in here, specifically the ones involving the main duo together, and I really like them. But like 3 out of a fuck ton just ain't worth it. Man, I'm just tired. The mere absurdity of these sexual deviant fantasies is so outrageous that I end up becoming detached from it all. Like, why should we care about these women at all? The girls we see here are literal monsters, walking disasters that wreak havoc wherever they go, slaughtering people in seconds, and equally dying just as fast. Maggot Baits, in every way, is a witch hunt. In the city of Pandemonium, there are certain women here known as witches, individuals seen as many as fearsome creatures, or the big titty goth girl of your dreams, ones that can and will crush you with their thighs. Some are bloodthirsty, others are noble warriors, and one just really wants to be Jesus Christ. Where blood is their weapons and semen is their drinking water, these women are immortal, supernatural beings that roam the city in search of whatever pleasure and men they desire. But not every witch here is like that, and not every man living here is dildo fodder. Introducing Carol and Shogo, a ragtag duo that seeks to find out who is orchestrating the chaos and witch hunt in the city of Pandemonium, a criminal hellscape where anything goes. Saying that Maggot Baits is bleak is an understatement, because like any other person reading this story, Shogo has his own share of seeing unspeakable atrocities. He is a cold-blooded machine, solely dedicated to his mission to dismantle the evil lying at the heart of the city, with his trusty weapon, Carol, the witch who obeys his every order. A battered and broken man, reborn to take matters into his own hands. Lots of scenes are dedicated to Shogo's revenge, and the harsh grittiness fits that violent aesthetic. The oppressive, eternally dark setting, the no-holds-barred fights to the death, and the intense backing tracks. With all that edge, it's only fitting that the opening to this ultra-violent Japanese visual novel was a hard rock Linkin Park-esque English song. It only served to perfectly highlight what I was getting myself into. Mostly. What I read, Maggot Baits. What I expected, non-stop Arrow Guro. What I got, Satanic rituals condemning Jesus Christ for being a pussy. Forget the torture scenes, I think more people are going to be hit harder with the unexpected Catholic themes and the religious fighting. No, not ideological, think more physical. Turns out the Holy Scriptures do pack as much punch as the actual physical text itself. Yes, I can confirm, the Pope sent over the Hulk to deal with the heretics, Holy Choir backup singers included. But Maggot Baits does a lot more with it, expressing a critical look into the foolishness of preconceived Catholic beliefs. Tell me, if God exists and is all-powerful and benevolent, why doesn't he prevent violence? Those suffering from violence are ultimately betrayed due to his inaction, even more so if they hold faith for God to save them. So, by not acting, does that mean that God supports violence? This can only mean God Almighty allows man to punch a motherfucker.
御心のままに暴虐を！ハレルヤ！
A fair amount of monologues like these are spread all around here, supporting Maggot Baits' relative concepts. A surprise for sure, but thought-provoking. Enough that I could find myself actually appreciating it, because it doesn't really impact me that much. Take this from someone who failed Bible studies and whose only real memory of Catholic education was the comedy movie where Michael Scott becomes modern-day Noah and Morgan Freeman plays God. I do recognize that it does have meaning, showing that life is full of foolish contradictions and inexplainable concepts. Simply put, life is confusing. Even more so when you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And like many of the characters, they too are trying to figure it out, or die trying. Throughout the script, the Maggot Baits takes on this philosophical nature to it, as it further explores characters' beliefs, thoughts, and feelings, and expands on it from a larger conceptual view. Take Shogo, a man hell-bent on taking revenge for what he couldn't do in the past. He may come off as an edgy man with a dark, brooding past, but how Maggot Baits constructs his backstory along with the established brutality solidifies his core beliefs and his attitude as a jaded man. It also leads to posing the underlying question of whether the justice that can defeat evil truly exists in the world, and if it accepts a violent individual like him. Everything from how he chooses to operate, to how he sees his companions, to how he interacts with Carol are decisions with consequences that will ultimately change him. And by the end, I was satisfied with how he turned out. The villains are equally the same way. Many of the witches themselves end up adopting a personal mantra, or wander around searching for a sense of purpose, given their questionable origins. It manifests under their daily activity of violent pillaging and semen stealing, because that's what they were strictly born to do. It adds extra depth, personality, and even a sense of pity to these women, as they're stuck in the cyclical nature of the cruel world that preys on them. Carol is the same. She may not know where she's from and how she was created, but if there's anything that can give her life meaning right now, it's that skilled, professional, ripped, well-toned hunk of a man next to her. She'll do anything she can to help fulfill his mission, even if her passion isn't reciprocated in the end. Maggot Baits elaborates on these points, and it makes the story more endearing and emotionally involved than at first glance. Almost romanticized when characters, including the villains, pursue or uphold those ideals and feelings, either because they wholeheartedly believe in them, or it's all they have left. And that's evident by both of the game's poetic endings. 90% of you probably won't read Maggot Baits. It's Arrow Girl to the extreme, one of the most iconic examples out there. But for the brave souls that do read it, we'll end up getting a more profound story than you might expect. 4 out of 5. Now, if you enjoyed this review or want to watch something equally as messed up, check out this video over here or this one for more general recommendations. And just remember, screwing over the entire world out of love is based.